topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Sports for kids in America began with what we affectionately called Sandlot Ball, where kids organized their own games, made their own rules, and played until the sun went down. Then came along parents.
I'm gonna get you tonight because you let me down, brother.
No, I'm not.
You did. I don't give what you do. You let me down. I don't care if you're gonna play 100%. I'll get you, buddy. Cry about that.
The National Alliance for Youth Sports was born out of a desire to bring order to the world of organized sports for children in America. While for the most part, children have a great experience playing sports, far too often parents and coaches lose perspective. This program is aimed at bringing some of America's best experts to talk about what we can do to change the atmosphere of win at all cost and parent poor behavior to one that focuses on children having a positive learning experience through sports. Here's our host, Fred Eng, the founder of the National Alliance for Youth Sports.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the show. We got a great one today with somebody that's name is Jacob Smith. Yeah, Jacob Smith. I looked up Jacob Smith on the internet, and there's 42,000 Jacob Smiths. I'm just kidding. No, Jacob Smith is our guest today, and so this is funny. I asked Jacob, I said, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? He said, have you ever heard of the show called Shoresy? And I said, no. And then all of a sudden I found out, I looked about the show Shoresy. It's on Hulu, and guess who's on the show? Our guest today, Jacob. So welcome, Jacob, and thanks a lot for being on the show.
Yeah, Freddie, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, the thing is that with ice hockey here in America, I guess it's kind of like, not as much as it is in Canada, obviously, because it's Little League Baseball started here, as you saw in the intro, and now it's become soccer here in America. But I wonder what it's like there in Canada with ice hockey. Is it still the greatest thing going for kids?
Yeah, and I think you were able to see that with that Four Nations tournament that just got put on. You could see how many people are still obsessed, I guess would be a good word for it, watching hockey and obsessed about hockey. And you got a taste of it down here in Florida,
Right.
and it was probably tenfold that up in Canada. Everybody I knew, and I don't have social media too much, but the little bit that I do have, everybody and their dog was posting about it. And it's that much more important for obviously kids too, to get into it, and especially now. I know, you don't see. I guess that's a whole nother topic, but yes, it's really big. It's really big in youth sports as well.
Well, you mentioned about for kids. What was your background in hockey? How old were you when you started?
There's a photo of me skating at about 2.5, 3 years old. So my dad started me young. My mom tells the story like this. When I was a baby, I got toys. When I turned 2, I got tools. When I turned 3, I got a hockey stick, and that was it. So,
is that typical for every kid in Canada?
I think so. You could look at it through a genetic perspective. My grandfather played hockey and loved it. Big Maple Leafs fan. My dad played hockey and loved it. Big Oilers fan. And when I started being interested in sports, there was basketballs, there was footballs, just like any other kid. But I took to hockey, and I had a big old basement. I was lucky. In Canada, we have basements. I know you don't know what that is down here in Florida, but
Right.
in Canada we do, and that's we had a finished side and an unfinished side. The unfinished side was more so for my dad's golf. He was in the golf business for his sports memorabilia and his sports demos and whatever, and the other side was a carpeted finished side for my hockey net and hockey sticks. So that's I started at 3, and then I was downstairs every chance I got growing up, and that's kind of what molded my passion for the game.
It's kind of funny, with me with ice hockey and whatnot. My son Pat asked me, when the Florida Panthers were, up there, obviously winning that championship, but he asked me, did I follow hockey? And I said, no, I haven't followed hockey. But the weirdest thing is, you probably have heard they're called the Johnstown Jets, and that was many years ago that my grandfather used to take me to watch the ice hockey team play there. And I remember how much I used to love playing it, or I mean, watching it and never playing it. And it's just amazing how it just, hasn't grown here in America. But you're playing, and when you started out playing, I just wonder, you've seen what our organization is all about, and you probably looked at the book that I wrote, Why Johnny Hates Sports. I began with myself. I was an athlete. I was a wrestler in high school and college, and I was a recreation professional, and I used to oversee 15,000 kids in all kinds of different sports. And then I began to see all the problems that went on with parents and with coaches losing all kind of perspective. And I said, this is crazy. Somebody's got to do something about it. I mean, yeah, it's competition is great for kids, and I'm a very competitive person myself. But to see what was happening and going on, I said to myself, somebody's got to do something about it. So I guess it ended up being me. But my question for you, Jake, is that in Canada, is it the same? I mean, do parents and coaches get out of whack like they do here?
Yeah, big time, really big. It's probably, uh, I mean, I don't know as far as in comparison to baseball and basketball and the four majors, football, but it would be up there with the most intense of all the sports. You got to think about, first of all, that there's no out in the actual sport itself. You're confined and held into a playing surface by boards. So that in itself is intense. Now tack on the fact that you're legally allowed to fight. Now in youth sports, it's changed. Some leagues you're not even allowed to hit, which we can go into that discussion as well. But and that translates to such an intense game where now you have fighting and hitting, and it's physical, and you're confined in this small space. To you're attached to the way your kids are handling each situation, and now the parents are intense about everything.
What do you think about that? I mean, what
Well,
do you think about the fact that, if you think of ice hockey,
mhm,
there's an old expression, I went to a game and a fight broke out, or went to a fight and a game broke out.
yeah.
But what do you think about that? I mean, that's the image a lot of Americans have of the game of ice hockey, that it's just nothing but bringing people together to fight. What's your thoughts about it? I mean, personally, you've been through it.
As political as I can be, I really enjoy the fighting aspect of the game. Now, being a part of it, I think it's definitely sports are a man's game. You can't be a little boy in the field. It just is what it is. It doesn't matter if it's the smallest, shortest, most unphysical sport. You have to be a man. And what I mean by that is you have to be strong, you have to be disciplined, you have to be self-controlled, you have to be, all those things, and but with regards to hockey, I think because it is such a physical sport. I think I personally love the fighting. I think there is a place for it. I think you have to be disciplined and self-controlled. When I played, I had to keep my head up. I had to know where I was skating, who I was playing against. I think that's an element of the game that shouldn't die off.
We lost you. I don't know what happened, Juan, but I hope it's not that his phone went dead or whatever, but we're stuck here. Uh, Let me do this. Are you back?
Can you
We
hear me?
lost you. We lost you, Jacob.
Oh, I can't hear you, Fred.
Yeah. Something happened.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sorry, I just got a phone call. Yeah, I had to exit out. I don't know what that was about, but um,
Go on
yeah.
wherever
So
you were. I was
yeah, I
singing. No, I was
basically
singing. I was singing a song while you went off there.
yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah. No, the short form for it is I do think there is a place for fighting. I think there's a place for hitting. And I think with regards to
Let
youth
me-
sports,
Jake, let
yep.
me stop you there. You say that first of all, you said that it's a man's game. I
Hmm.
understand that. I used to coach high school football, and I always said football is a tough game for tough people. And if you
Hmm.
can't be that, then you don't belong out here on the field. There's
Right.
a little bit of difference, though. And that is when you say it's a man's game, when does it become a man's game? Because you've got how young, 4 or 5 year old kids playing competitive hockey. That's
Hmm.
not a man, that's a kid. So
Hmm.
are you saying that it's okay for them to be fighting at that age?
No, fighting's not legally allowed in the leagues that I'm a part, or that junior leagues, until about 18. So I think there is a threshold. Now there is a league in Ontario that's 16 to 21 that fighting is allowed. It's the most elite league that you can play in at that age. And I think there is a place for that. Now, when I was 16, I was not a man. I was playing against 21-year-old men, but I was not a man at that point. But it taught me how to be a man, and it taught me how to grow up, face adversity, be strong, be disciplined. Um, and I think that in regards to being a man, there is a threshold, obviously, later on in your late teens and early 20s that breaks through because of your learning experience through hockey.
Do you think that attitude of fighting is okay and in a sense, violence is okay? Do you think that spills over into the stands? Because I can't get out of my mind the incident that happened, and even though it's an isolated incident that happened in Massachusetts a few years back, where two hockey dads were there. It was a practice, and the one guy's in the stand, his son's out there on the ice, and he and the coach got into it in an argument about who was playing too rough and whatnot. And it ends out the guy comes out of the stands. They get out on the ice. The guy's 275 pounds. The other guy's about 150 pounds. The guy grabs him, throws him on the ice, takes his head, bangs it into the ice, and kills him.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's obviously terrible. But my question to you is what is allowed at the older age of violence, fighting, does that spill over to the individual in the stands?
No, I think that's an isolated incident and that's unheard of. Somebody got killed at Sandhill Crane a few months back, and that was an isolated incident. Doesn't mean that people are getting killed on the golf course. Um, So that's just the way I can say about that. And also, I think that the fans in general in hockey are a lot more tame than football fans through my experience. So in relation to that particular incident, I don't think hockey has any way, shape, or form a greater effect on parental violence or fan violence for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously you grew up, and that's in the world of ice hockey, and I can understand that it's like anybody that grew up with a particular different sport and they played it all their life. What
Hmm.
we have now here, that you're seeing in the U.S. is soccer, and kids everywhere where it used to be baseball fields. Now what they're playing on is soccer, taking those baseball fields away.
Hmm.
And so now you have a new sport that is emerging here. And I guess it spills over for every kid to choose whatever he wants. But in your case, I think it's really interesting how you grew up and 2 years old and you're getting skates, and 3 years old you're out there, and you end up, as you told me the other day, you played over in France.
Yeah.
uh, how did that get to be you going to France and playing ice hockey?
Well, I will say this in pertaining to hockey before we jump into that hockey is a very unique sport in that you need money to play it. Soccer, you need what? Initiation fee and shoes. Basketball, you need a ball and shoes. Same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Football, you need a little more gear, but other than that, like maybe that's all you need. And then hockey would be the fourth, where now you need gear, you need skates, you need stick, you need equipment, you need to rent the ice, you need to travel to play other teams. Like it's a little more costly, so it's a very privileged sport, I think. And in that, I was blessed and lucky to play it, and I don't think it's going to be as common. You're not going to see it as popular as soccer or baseball or whatever, what have you, simply because of the cost of doing it. and
Do you
and
feel bad about that?
what's that?
What I mean by saying, do you feel bad about that? I feel bad for the kids here in the US that now what they call travel leagues. And the only way that you can get in that is just what you described, people that
Money.
have the money that can pay the travel and all that. And people are spending thousands and thousands of dollars. You're saying kind of almost the same thing with ice hockey for kids in Canada.
Right. And that's just kind of where the economy is, and that's just where you know, unfortunately that's just kind of situation now. Talent will take you far. Hard work will take you far, but you need to get your foot in the door somehow, and sometimes money plays a big role in that. And unfortunately, that's just, yeah, like I said, we're where we are. So, I personally, I don't feel bad. I use that as like, okay, now I'm blessed to have had that opportunity, and how can I best utilize that to my advantage and to ultimately others' advantage, to my child, to my family, and so on and so forth.
So you back to the point that you evaded about going to France,
Oh
but
yeah,
you didn't evade it, but
yeah.
you switched gears. But what happened with that? You went to France? How that's kind of weird.
So I played hockey. I was pretty highly touted when I was about 16. Had a year. Again, this is my going back to making you a man. I had a year that I was not up to par. I was still a boy playing in a man's league, and it wasn't. It didn't go well for me, but it taught me a lot, and I'm super blessed about it. Blessed to have that experience. Now, after my junior hockey, I went and played college hockey. And then after college hockey, here I am sitting in purgatory wondering, do I go pro or do I just hang him up? And I had a buddy he was a French speaking Canadian who I played with on my university team, who got a pretty good offer in one of the Division 1 leagues in France. And I texted him, I said, hey man, can I use your agent? Is there any way to get me out there? And he said, well, it's pretty late, but we can give it a shot. And so his agent called me and said, hey, send me your information. I know you played with Dion, so that's a good reference. uh, we'll figure it out. And then I think 2 days later, the team that I ended up playing for had an opening. One of the guys that was signed bailed, and they were looking to fill the spot within like that week. They were like kind of panicking, and they needed a centerman or a winger forward that had good hand scoring ability, just kind of fit my mold, and it just fell into place. The agent contacted me back, said, "Here's the offer on the table. This is what they have for you. It's either a yes or no." I talked to my parents about it, and I was on a plane like 3 weeks later.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
How
pretty
long
cool.
did that last?
Well, I would have probably been there a couple years, but then COVID hit in March. So
Uh,
this was August of 2019. So I graduated in April of 2019. This was August of 2019, and I came home March of 2020. So I
so
was
is
only
your
there
hockey
for.
career over?
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, we just won our adult league out here in Boca, so I mean, I guess it's still living and breathing somewhat. And then I do play against alumni teams once a year, NHL alumni teams with the show you mentioned in the intro. So I guess it's the career itself is over, but I get to do some pretty cool things with it.
Yeah, it's so funny hearing. Sorry, I'm still trying to get rid of this cold.
Okay, it's going
Uh,
good.
it's so funny hearing you talk, and as I listen to it, my whole experience obviously is everything in sports in America, and it's with you in Canada. It's just one sport. Is that the only
Mhm.
sport you ever played?
I played soccer growing up, quite like you talked about. That was kind of our summer thing. Baseball wasn't really popular at the time where I grew up. Neither was football, and plus, football, even if it was I would have been injury prone, and my dad was like, "You got to focus on hockey." So soccer was kind of my summer sport because of the seasons, and then hockey was my winter sport.
You probably wonder why I wrote the book, Why Johnny Hates Sports, why the National Alliance for Youth Sports was ever created. I want to show you the press box that we do from the organization every week, and I want to get your reaction to it. So, Juan, if you could just show the press box. Those headlines are 1 week of the press box. So it goes on every week throughout the year, and we've never had a lack of finding something that is what I want to show you next. Can you play the
Woodstock
next one?
U7 hockey coach has been arrested following an incident at a recent game. On Saturday, just before 9 a.m., Woodstock police said the coach allegedly argued a call with the referee, challenging the decision of the 7-year-old's hockey game. The situation escalated, stopping the game. The referee kicked the coach out of the game, but he reportedly refused to leave. That led to police being called to help. Officers said they escorted the coach to the dressing room to collect his things, but the coach started yelling at people attending the game. Police began to escort him out when he became violent. In an outburst, he physically resisted officers and began swinging his arms, leading to a confrontation. 2 officers were forced to physically restrain the coach after he assaulted them. The coach faces charges for causing a disturbance, 2 counts of assaulting a police officer, and 1 count of resisting arrest. Officers remind the importance of sportsmanship and respect, especially in kids' ice sports, setting a good example for the players.
What do you make of that, Jacob?
I actually didn't get to see the video; it didn't pop up on my screen.
It wasn't. It was just an audio. But
Oh,
I'm
I did.
wondering. Oh no, I'm with the press box. You saw those different headlines.
Yes, the headlines. Yeah, you want me to speak about those headlines?
That was just an audio after that to
Okay.
give an example there of one hockey situation. I'll give you
Okay.
one myself, and you probably, saying, how much do I know about it? I did after our organization began, so many different things happened, and I was on every TV from ESPN to Good Morning America and on and on and on and on. And I was in Tampa, Florida one time, and the station asked me, they said, "No, I want you to look at this video and tell me what you think." So I looked at it, and there was an ice hockey game and a kid's skating and whatnot. And they turned the camera to his father, and the kid misses a goal, and the father yells down at him, "You bum, you can never do anything." And that's the thing that our organization is about, of saying, you talked before about it's a man's game. And yeah, that father telling his son to be a man out there at 7 years old. And yet at the same time, what is that father or other fathers doing to the self-esteem of a kid that is growing up that has been told he's a bum because he just simply missed a goal? What do you think of that?
Well, first of all, I think that's not the make of a man. And I think that the father is actually living through his child because of the insignificance that he feels inside. And that is actually not what a man is. A man is somebody who is humble, somebody who is kind, somebody who is strong, but yet knows how to tame his tongue and temper, somebody who leads by example. And that, to me, wouldn't be a good example to set for my child. So, first of all, we talk about a man's game, but that is not indicative of a man.
Yeah, you said something in the beginning that when I was asking you about seeing different things, and you indicated kind of, yeah, I've seen a lot of things that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me an example of anything that you remember seeing or hearing in your career? I'm not talking about older level. I'm talking about 7 to 8-year-old kids.
Okay. Actually happened to me. One time we were in practice and we were skating around, and what happens is you skate around the circle and you shoot on net. And we had a goalie that was turned the other way, and I shot the puck because I wasn't looking. I was probably about 7 or 8, maybe even younger. But I shot the puck and I lifted it off the ice and I hit him in the back. And the call dropped. Just a kid. So he dropped and he was crying or whatever. And we were waiting. Like, I went down on one knee and we were waiting because the coaches were tending on him. And the father ran on the ice and passed me and pushed me over and like ran to his child and like basically was like angry with me because me and my 6 or 7 year old kid, I didn't know what I was doing. I just was skating around shooting the puck. But that's an example of, well, first of all, a father thinking that that's the proper way to protect this child, I guess, by pushing a 6-year-old kid. But a way that the game, parents could get heated because they live through their child, or there's other stuff going on behind the scenes that you don't quite know about that comes out at the hockey rink just because that's the most that an intense moment of that family's life, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's why our organization was created. And it's because so much of that goes on that we don't even know about. I mean, I could sit here and tell you story after story after story, not that I went through personally, but when I was coaching and when I was a recreation professional, seeing all of it. But all these people across America go to different games and conferences, and people would tell me stories. So I used to think people would say to me, or accuse me of being a wimp and saying we're trying to take competition out of the game and making it a sissy game for kids. And that's not the truth. The truth is that what we're trying to do is to make sports a safe experience for kids and a fun experience, because probably better than anybody, coming all the way up and reaching a professional level, then unless it's a fun experience for you, unless you don't have somebody criticizing you and putting you down all the time, it's going to be, like you said, a great experience for your life. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think hockey has done for you as an individual?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think hockey above all has taught me how to face adversity, how to handle situational adversity, but also handling conflict among bosses, among peers, among not enemies, but like a competition. You know, it's taught me how to be a better employee, a better son, a better father. It's taught me to be more disciplined, more controlled, more passionate about life. It's given me the ability to even just operate differently physically. Like I feel like it's athletically helped my body stay healthy, you know. But I feel like the most one is the one I originally touched on, was the adversity thing, and I think that's what a lot of people don't necessarily realize about sports is it's not just playing a game. There's conflict involved, there's teamwork involved, and there's success involved, there's failure involved, and it it's a real important life lesson to learn it all and how to handle it.
Yeah, it's so important. When you were saying that, I kept thinking, and like I mentioned, my sport was wrestling, and I can remember times when I wanted to die. I was on the mat and somebody was just beating the hell out of me, and I wanted to quit. I wanted to just give up and never come back. And I learned that if you do that, you learn forever doing that. And so what you're saying makes so much sense. And that's the thing that we want kids to have, is this great experience, and not having parents get out of whack, not having coaches living their lives through those kids that are out there, and not those coaches think that they're professional coaches for 8-year-old children.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's been great. But I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the fact of the show that you're in called Shorzy.
Yeah.
And and when I asked Jacob about it, and he said, "Yeah, the show. Have you seen it?" And I said, "No, I haven't seen it." So he said, "There I am in it." So I checked it out. But the funny thing is, Jacob, I don't know whether I mentioned this to you the other day, but I asked one of the guys that I play golf with, I said, "You ever hear this show called Shorzy?" And he said, "Oh yeah, man, I watch that all the time. It's a great show." I said,
Wow.
"Well, do you know that Jacob's in that show?" He said, "What? Are you kidding me?" And he
Wow.
said, "No, no, he's in it." So I made you now famous. People don't realize it. As we're talking here, I met Jacob at the golf course, so that's how our connection is.
Right. Yeah.
So tell them just a little bit about that show.
Yeah. First of all, it's a pretty witty, quick-witted humor show. A lot of swearing, a lot of chirping. A lot of conflict. But the show's mainly based on hockey. It's based on a team. It's a fictional show based on a fictional team that started off really crappy. There's a main character, obviously, his name is Shorzy, and he brings in these ringers, these ex-professional hockey players to make the team better and to win this senior hockey league. So that's basically the storyline, and it's taken off. They're filming the fifth season right now. I was lucky enough to be part of 18 episodes or 3 seasons. There's 6 episodes per season. It was an incredible experience. I had no prior acting experience or anything. I just simply got it from my hockey accolades. And now we're lucky enough to go play NHL alumni teams. Last November, we toured. We went to Buffalo and played the Sabres. We went to Boston and played the Bruins, Detroit Red Wings, Toronto. We played the Leafs, and there's one other, Blackhawks. We went to Chicago to play the Blackhawks. So these alumni teams they usually have a tough time finding guys to play on the teams. They usually have a tough time filling seats. And there was talks from the Boston team that there was guys in Toronto team that there was guys asking to be a part of that game, which never happens. And they couldn't they couldn't seat everybody because guys like Wendell Clark and Nick Andropov and Todd Gill and Frankie Corrado, guys that have played for them, were already on the roster for the team. So anyways, we toured for 2 weeks. We went to 5 cities and we sold a cumulative of about 25,000 tickets in those 5 cities. So it was a big hit. The show's been a big hit, and it's been just such a blessing to still continue to play hockey and do what I love.
So I guess I can call you a star, huh?
I prefer Jacob.
Hey, listen, I want to thank you for being on. It's been great hearing all the things that, with your hockey career and your insight as to, why we think about hockey the way we do. And it's refreshing to know that you can hear it from somebody that played like you. So again, thanks, Jacob. And I'll be checking on you when I see you at the golf course.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on, Freddie. I really appreciate it.
You got it.
All right.
Fred Angs, Billy Jones's father, is more than just a story about a boy and his father. It's an eye-opening journey into the emotional struggles faced by children in the world of competitive sports. As you turn the pages, you'll see how unrealistic expectations and unchecked ambitions can shape, mold, and sometimes break a child's spirit. This book dives deep into the human experiences that resonate with so many and calls on us to reflect on the roles we play in the lives of young athletes.
Well, that's it for this week, and I sure hope that you'll tune in next Friday at 11 a.m. for another exciting one. But it was great having Jacob Smith, ice hockey player. I heard a lot of things I haven't heard before, so I guess we're going to find out some new things next week. So tune in. See you then.
This program is sponsored by Sir Durf Publishing in the interest for better sports for kids, better kids for life.
In this best-selling book, a child, while failing to live up to his father's expectations, is shamed and humiliated beyond belief. He vows to never allow his own son to face the same.